Hey, this is Dwayne. I'm here this week to talk to you about the second half of the Spiritual Inventory 2. Remember last week, and the week before, we worked on 4 things about our character. And we had 4 different pieces of paper that we went by. And each piece of paper had a heading at the top. You can pull those out, but we're not going to be looking at those really closely this week. We talked about getting 4 more pieces of paper, and tonight and next week we're going to be writing a separate little heading at the top of each one of those 4 pieces of paper, and then we're going to look at this spiritual inventory for these other 4 character sets. Basically what we're talking about is major structural things in your life that are incredibly important, okay? And we're going to be itemizing them and looking at them. And that's why I brought this out for you. Know what this is? Everybody knows what this is. This is a magnifying glass. We're magnifying these things. We're writing them down on paper, which is forcing us to think about them, okay? It's forcing us to think about each and every one of them. So, this May 27th, June the 4th, 2021. Still in the middle of this COVID thing. Crazy, crazy, crazy times we're living in, that's for sure. Need God more than ever. And we're still on principle 4 and we're on step 4, which is basically the inventory step and the inventory principle, okay? And so I'm going to read those out to you now. Principle 4 says, openly examine and confess my faults to myself, to God, and to someone I trust, which means you have an accountability partner are a sponsor by this point, which is incredibly important. I told you, because you're going to be looking at some things from your past, and you need to be strong, and your prayer life needs to be strong, and you need to probably have someone to talk to, because that's part of the process of healing, is being able to talk to someone, okay? Someone that you trust, someone that's not going to take you down a bad path. It's going to take you to a better place, okay? And there are people out there that will do both for you. So choose wisely. Matthew 5:8 says, happy are the pure in heart. Remember, this is that refining process, where nobody has a pure heart, right? But we would be extremely happy if we had a pure heart. But there's different levels of pureness. And what we're doing here is we're working on refining and purifying our heart, and that is basically symbolizing this inventory process, okay? And all that stuff's just jumbled up on our heads, and all this stuff's just jumbled up in our hearts, and we will never ever get all that stuff untangled if we don't get an organized inventory process going to write these things down in an organized fashion so that we can look at it closer, okay? That's the only way we can do it. It's just too much information. It's like trying to memorize half of the phone book, all at one time, and remember, 100 different people's phone numbers of people you don't even know, okay? So there's no way you can do it. This is just a part of the process that's going to help you through this, okay? So it's very important. It's not to be taken lightly. Step 4 says, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Searching, magnifying, fearless, because we're afraid of looking at some of those things, okay? Lamentations 3:40 says, let us examine our ways, and just as importantly, and test them, and question them, and look at them, and put them under a magnifying glass, okay? And let us return to the Lord. So, at this point, you got your accountability, you got your accountability partner, you have your sponsor. That's important, okay? The last 2 weeks we worked on the first 4 character sets. Remember, I asked you to have those 4 sheets of paper, not 5, 4 sheets of paper, and at the top of each one, you literally wrote down each one of those 4 character sets, and then you had notes jotted down up under those. This week and next week, we're going to work on 4 more of those life-building character sets that are so important. And I'm going to tell you tonight a heading to put at the top of each one of those 4 character sets, okay? So, and don't forget now, we've got to keep your inventory balanced. I mean, we're not just looking at the ugly stuff. I mean, we're looking, you need to keep it balanced, and you need to just like say, okay, yeah, I have been sweeping this under the rug, and I have swept a lot of stuff under the rug, and every time I lift the rug up, I don't even look to see what's under there. I just sweep more stuff up under there, okay? Or you got your cluttered up desk, and the stuff that's on the bottom of this stack over here you haven't looked at in 10 years. You know, you've been hiding it from it. You don't even want to look at it, right? So, starting to look at these things, and we're praying to God every day, not just once a day, but every day, numerous times a day, however many times a day it takes for you to get through this process, okay? And you're talking about it out loud with a sponsor that you trust, that's not going to spread it all around town, that probably has some experiences related to yours that has happened to them in their life, so they're kind of understandable about some things. But they're also strong enough to hold you to the fire when you start lying and trying to fall off the wagon, so to speak. And you know, they're strong enough to hang in there with you, even if you don't want to really look at them, so to speak, because you're trying to get back to some of your old ways, and they see the potential in you, and they want to take you and help you get on your better path, okay, and stay there. So there's going to be a total of these 8 character sets. We're working on 4 between this week and next week. We'll be working on the latter 4 of the 8, okay? So Psalm 139:23 through 24 says, "Point out anything you find in me that makes you sad, and lead me along the path of everlasting life." Okay? And basically, anything that makes God sad is things that are ultimately making us sad, because a lot of the things that we do have hurt us or hurt others, and if we're hurting and others are hurting, God's hurting. So when you pray to God, and this is basically a little prayer to God here, you know, lead me the path of everlasting life, and point out anything you find that makes you sad. Because if God's sad, there's a reason He's sad, okay? And that reason usually means that you're hurting or someone else is hurting, and sometimes it's because of some things that we are doing, or some things that we did or someone did to us in the past that we haven't been able to overcome. So on your 4 sheets, okay, remember last week, just as a reminder, you had relationships with others, priorities in your life, your attitude, and the 4th sheet was your integrity, okay? This week, here's the top heading for that sheet number 5, okay? Put a big 5 on it. Our minds. Basically your mind, okay? Or you can write my mind. Write M-I, my mind. However you feel like you want to do that. Sheet number 6, write your body. Or write my body. You know, meaning your body. Not anybody else's body. Your family, okay? That's your family, not your neighbor's family, okay? That's your family. Write that down. Number 8, your church, okay? Your church. Write that down. Alright. We're going to do 2 of these this week, and we're going to do the other 2 next week, mainly because I need something to talk about for next week, okay? So be sure to come back for next week, because I know a lot of you look at the first lesson. We'll briefly highlight the ones for next week, but we're going to go into them in more detail next week. So basically, sheet number 5, our minds, okay? And the most difficult thing to open is a closed mind, right? And let's be honest, if we're suffering from denial and have been for years, if we've been lying to ourselves for years, it's hard to change. Change is hard. But we're going to have to open up our minds and just plan on doing and renewing some of those circuits up there, and getting rid of some of these bad habits. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then you'll be able to test and to prove what God's will is, His good and pleasing and perfect will." Basically what he's saying is so easy to get off the path. And look, nowadays, I mean, children, not just children, but adults nowadays are having to deal with things that nobody's ever had to deal with. You know, sometimes, you know, it was probably easier back 300 years ago when people couldn't read and write. And really, it wasn't even 300 years ago, less than 100 years ago. And even today, there's people that can't read and write. Well, they can sure hear, and there's a TV on in their house, I guarantee it. But there is a lot of things out there that we're just, that we got to be careful of. And if you want to really find out what God's true will is, you're going to have to limit some of that other garbage that's getting in your life, okay? There's just no other way about it. You got to get away from some of that, and you got to pray, read your Bible, and you got to get with God and ask for what His true will is. And also that means if you're covered up, if you're a slave to this sin or that sin, and it's just taking up all your time and it's just destroying you, it's going to be hard to get a really close relationship with God and figure out, what He wants to help you in your life. Because look, you have a purpose, friend. I mean, you're not just some animal here that's able to do whatever he or she wants to do, destroy people and steal and kill and destroy and do all these things. You're a human being, buddy. You have a purpose, and you have a purpose, and I want you to know that, because that gives you hope. Because if you don't think you got a purpose, I mean, that's really depressed. It's sad, it really is. It's really a sad thing. Oh, I got some company coming around the corner. I might see what I got over here. What's going on, girls? What's up? I thought I heard something coming around the corner. Anyway, they got out. But look, I'll try not to let my ADHD distract me anymore with them, okay? They've got their things to do, and I've got my things to do here. So anyway, it's easy to get distracted, is what I'm trying to say. And that's one example. There are a lot of other things that will distract you in this world right now. So one thing, on your sheet, okay, on sheet 5, write this question down. How have you guarded or protected your mind in the past? I mean, I know in the last few years, I don't even have cable, okay? I mean, I ordered all the episodes of Little House on the Prairie and Andy Griffith and some of these old shows that are more wholesome, and that's pretty much what I watch. I mean, but I can remember a time when, man, I would binge watch movies till midnight sometimes, okay? And it was just kind of, and it's really a drug in a lot of ways. It takes you away from better things that you can be doing with your time, that are either with your family or making money for your family, or improving your social skills, improving your professional skill set. I mean, there's so many things that you can swap all that movie time out with that'll help improve your life and improve your family life as well. So how have you guarded or protected your mind in the past? Now look, denial is just one coping skill, okay? Another coping skill people do to be able to sleep at night is they justify the wrongs that they do, and they blame someone else for them, okay? Basically all that is not taking responsibility for your actions. Pushing the truth under the rug, and then, pushing all kinds of things under the rug and not looking at it. Hiding from yourself is another way. Lying to yourself is another way. Here's one thing that used to affect me. Being a workaholic, there were some benefits to that. I guess it was better than smoking crack, so to speak, because you actually made money and didn't blow it. But it also took me away from my family. But just staying busy, working 90 hours a week, 100 hours a week. If it wasn't just a 90 hour a week, it was some other extracurricular activity that was taking the rest of my time. I mean, basically going from as soon as I got up to when I went to bed, okay? So, being so busy that you never had time to think about anything, I mean, that's definitely a coping mechanism. Keeping yourself drunk or stoned all the time, so that you don't have to think about things, that's another way, common thing. So anyway, here's another thing, another question to write down, and write the answer down. Has your mind been occupied with hurtful or unhealthy things such as internet sites, television sites, programs, magazines? I mean, this is all kind of running together, okay? Pornography's terrible. And it's not just pornography. The movies that are out there nowadays, instead of real plots, I mean, they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on special effects, and it's really just you're watching the special effects really with just a bare minimal plot. You know, it's not even stuff that will challenge your mind, so to speak. It's challenging your senses, but drugs do that. You know, sex does that. You know, other things that cause adrenaline and different things, emotions do that. But you know, live your life with your family. Okay, experience those emotions with your family. Don't marry the TV, okay? Don't marry the television, so to speak. You know, Aristotle once said this. He said, "We are what we repeatedly do." And I've talked about this so many times. You know, you are your habits, basically. He says, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but it is a habit. It is your habits. If you want to be excellent, change your habits to things that will help you become excellent, you know. And that doesn't mean become a workaholic. I'm not saying not to be good at your job and try to be the best at what you can, but at the same time, try to be the best person in your family. You know, be the better father, be the better mother, even be the better child. Okay. That's what I'm saying here. Proverbs 15:14 says, "A wise person is hungry for the truth, while a fool feeds on trash." And there's a lot of trash out there. There's more trash out there now than probably any other time in the history of the world, because not everybody didn't used to have a television in their houses, and they do today. Okay, and what you allow in that to come into your mind is something. So that's our minds. That's sheet 5, okay? Our minds. What are you doing to protect your mind? All right. So the number 6 thing. Oh, wait a minute. Go back to our minds. Okay. Have you failed to focus on positive truths of the Bible? I almost forgot something. Okay, that's very important. You know, your mind's a powerful thing. It's a sponge. And also, you know, the Bible says your body is a temple, and your mind is a part of that temple. And, you know, basically, it takes me back to something a biology teacher in college told the class one time. And I think it was like the first day. It was one of his first opening statements, which meant that it was really profound to him, and he really probably told that to all of his classes. But basically, he said, if you go out and if you buy a $100,000 Porsche, a shiny, brand new $100,000 Porsche with leather seats and the works, you know, and for you it might be a Lamborghini, or it might be some other, you know, 100,000 or 200 or 300 or $500,000 vehicle, okay? He said, would you pull up to an old gas station that's got like old rusted out fuel tanks under the ground, that's got water and, you know, all kinds of stuff in it? Would you use that gas and put it in your car? Would you scratch your paint job? Would you put your bird feeder on top of your car where birds would come up there and soil your car? I mean, I'm using this. He was using this for your body. What he said after that was, he said, well, why do you eat the things you eat? Why do you drink the things you drink that's going to cause your body to work harder than they have to work, and it's going to shorten your lifespan, so to speak, and it's going to make you look, well, I'm not going to say that, but it's going to make you look horrible by the time you turn 50 years old or 60 years old, you know, the way you treat your mind and your body. And so this applies, what he said applies to your mind. What are you doing to protect your mind? What would you do to protect your car? Because look, your body is worth so much more than a $100,000 Porsche or $200,000 Porsche, or, you know, $500,000 Mercedes, or whatever it is. Your body is with you your whole life, and your mind is with you your whole life. And there's certain things that you can more easily change with your mind than you can with your body. But you change your mind first, and then you can change the situation with your body. All right. Which brings me to the next sheet number 6. Your body, okay? Apply that same principle to your body. Would you put dirty fuel in your body, okay? Take care of your body. 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20 says, haven't you yet learned that your body is the home of the Holy Spirit that God gave you? and that he lives in you. And your own body does not belong to you, for God has bought you with a great price. So use every part of your body to give glory back to God because he owns it. And, you only have one body. You didn't just pop out by accident, okay? I mean, your body is a temple, and you need to take care of it. And you don't need to abuse it. And if you have abused it, you don't need to abuse it anymore. So you need to write down the question: what are you doing to abuse your body? And what can you do to protect your body? Okay? In what ways have you mistreated your body? I mean, my dad, years ago when I was a teenager, he never gave me the birds and the bees talk. He basically told me, he said, your mom would say, don't sleep with a woman. I'll say, I can fool around a little bit and that's it. But he did say this, and this was one of the most important parts. He said, you be very careful. He said, with who you hang around. He said, you might catch something that Ajax won't clean off. And of course he said that not as a child. I was an adult when he told me that, so he's not telling me stuff like that. The only birds and bees talk my mother told me was, she said, I don't want any yard children, and you need to respect women. Okay, that's the two things she told me when I was young. So traditional birds and the bees, that came from classmates and other areas. Okay, so write this question down here. What activities or habits have caused you harm or physical health? Psalm 139:13-14 says, for you created my inmost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them ever came to be. And, when you're young, you don't really think about some of the things. You abuse your body. You don't think what they're going to do to you, how they're going to come back and haunt you later in life, when you're in your 40s and 50s and so forth. And so, take care of your body. If you're going to take care of your body, if you're older, you already know that. If you didn't treat your body right, you already know that now because you're suffering from it. Your bones are hurting, joints are hurting. And a lot of times it comes back to childhood, and sometimes it's just, luck of the straw, so to speak, from genetics. But take care of your body, because I can remember a time when I never thought about death, and I did some stupid, crazy stuff that would have killed a lot of people, could have killed me. And each time I survived it, I didn't really think about it. It wasn't until I got sick about 7 years ago with Rocky Mountain spotted fever that I almost died. And when you can't breathe, that really gets you thinking about a lot of stuff. So, of course, getting bit by a tick really wasn't my fault. But there are things killing people every day that are things they are more in control of, okay, that they can change. All right, sheet number 7. We're going to end right here for this week. And look, it's very important that you come back next week because there's 2 more lessons. And I'm going to briefly highlight them this week, and we're going to talk about them in more detail next week, okay? Sheet number 7 is your family. Sheet number 8 is your church. Pull those 2 sheets out. Joshua 24:15 says, if you are unwilling to obey the Lord, then decide today whom you will obey. But as far as me and my family, we will obey the Lord. Basically, he's saying, look, if you're not obeying God, you're obeying somebody. You're obeying the world. You're obeying something around you. And, you're a slave to something. So, you need to think about that, okay? Between now and next week. But, if you haven't already made the choice, or if you made the choice but you haven't been living it, this is what Josh said. He said, but as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. Okay? In number 8, Again, we'll go over these in more detail next week. But your church, pull that one out. Hebrews 10:25 says, "Let us not neglect our church meetings as some people do, but encourage and warn each other, especially now that the day of His coming back is drawing nearer and nearer." And look, Jesus could come back for any of us today. It's not, I know a lot of people get real heavy and deep into Revelation. And honestly, I believe that those times are looking more and more like they're coming, okay? I think there's some things in that Bible that clearly points to some things. Basically, I mean, we call this the information age we're in. And basically one of the signs was knowledge will increase, in brackets, exponentially. And what has the internet done, okay? Not only has it given us information, it's given us good information, but it's also given us a lot of misinformation. Clearly, there's a lot of misinformation, and it's confusing a lot of people on the internet. And the people who believe they are in the know, they think they know it all. They're believing one set of misinformation, and someone else is, the other side is believing the opposite. And there's a lot of misinformation there too. So, but Jesus could come back anytime for any of us, whether it's the end times or not. It's going to be the end times for all of us in our lifetime. Okay, that might be tomorrow, it might be 40 years from now, but it's going to be the end time, whether it's revelation inspired or not. And some people suffer through cancer and it's on so much pain they have to take morphine and they're out of it. Okay, so anyway, and there's people in the world that are still starving to death, literally starving to death, and none of us have ever had to experience that at this point. Okay, so anyway, don't neglect the church meetings. There's a lot of negativity in the world. Try to get around some good people and some positive people, and church is a good place to do that, especially if you're going through an inventory of your life and you're trying to overcome some of the hurdles that are holding you back in your past. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say good night, and I will see you next week, and I hope you have a good week, okay? All right, take care.